Greetings and a warm welcome to Face to Face. Today I'm going to talk face to face with the commander of the Iran Army's ground forces, Brigadier General Pourdasan. Thank you so very much, General Pourdasan, for joining us in the show. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions today.
In the name of God, I would also like to greet you and your viewers. I'm ready to take your questions.
Now, Iran's armed forces have been conducting a large number of military drills this year. Some of them were conducted both by the Army and IRGC forces. Some are going to be planned to be conducted in the near future. What's the message for conducting so many military drills? Who is going to get the message?
خدمت شما عرض کنم که دکترین نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران دفاعی و مبتنی بر بازدارندگی است.
The doctrine of Iran's armed forces is defensive and is deterrence-based. This is quite meaningful. Defensive doctrine means that we do not intend to invade any country, and deterrence-based doctrine means that efforts to boost our operational capabilities are aimed at deterring those governments which may fancy an attack against Iran. They should know that if they decide to invade Iran, the nation is capable of hitting back with a strike which will be way more lethal and destructive. One of the messages of our drills is that we are boosting our deterrence, preparing our troops, and testing our weapons. But this is not meant to attack any country unless we come under attack.
اما هیچگاه برای حمله به هیچ کشوری نخواهد بود مگر اینکه مورد تجاوز قرار بگیریم.
Well, General, you mentioned that we are trying to exercise actually and try to empower ourselves in terms of deterrence and defensive purposes. Which countries? You said that some countries might be thinking of invading against Iran or raiding Iran. You're going to deter this. Do you have any specific country in mind?
ببینید ما امروز شاهد هستیم که ادبیات سردمداران امریکایی و
Look, these days the US and Israeli officials growingly sound as if they plan to launch an attack. As we are facing such a threatening language, we are obliged, as the military arm of the establishment, to create the necessary defensive capabilities. We have also been told by the Holy Quran, make ready your strength against them to the utmost of your power, including steeds of war, to strike terror into the hearts of the enemies of God and your enemies. We have seen no change in the language of the US officials even after the nuclear deal. It still has a tone of threat, pressure, and tension. The Israeli regime's officials also use the same language. In this atmosphere, which is charged with threat and sounds as though an attack could happen, we as the military arm of the state are obliged to boost our defensive capabilities and regularly test and upgrade them during war games.
Now, speaking of the U.S., the leader of the Islamic Revolution recently again emphasized that the U.S. government, and not a people, is actually considered as Iran's enemy. What message do you have for the U.S. administration?
As the leader of Iran's Islamic Revolution has said, U.S. officials are enemies of Iran. This stems from the historical background of Americans' actions. The Americans used to have many interests in our country. During the Cold War and before the Islamic Revolution, Iran was a key U.S. puppet. In other words, our country was Washington's most important puppet and provided many benefits and advantages for the U.S. The first and foremost advantage was the fact that Iran was located to the north of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Sea of Oman, which enabled the U.S. to control the energy supply route. Our country bordered the former Soviet Union. The border was nearly 3,000 kilometers long, and the Americans had deployed all types of electronic, espionage, and eavesdropping systems along the border, thus monitoring the slightest movements in the former Soviet Union and northwards to the Arctic Ocean. Iran was a market for American goods. Our army worked as a gendarme for the U.S. Our country was the front line of NATO in the face of the Warsaw Pact. This meant that if, one day, the Soviets wanted to move toward the open seas, our country was committed to standing up against it until NATO troops would arrive from the Indian Ocean and the Diego Garcia Island, thus turning Iran into a battlefield. Well, with the victory of the Islamic Revolution, the U.S. saw itself stripped of all those benefits. There were many other advantages as well, but this is not the only thing at which the U.S. was angry. The main reason behind the U.S. anger was the fact that the Islamic Revolution brought some themes like rejection of domination, fighting arrogance, religious democracy, and the rule of religious jurisprudence. The Americans knew that these themes wouldn't remain within our geographical borders and would affect regional nations. For this reason, from February 12, 1979, namely the day after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, they began their confrontational and subversive acts against Iran. They have proved that their language has never been friendly since the February of 1979. Rather, it's been hostile. When the commander-in-chief and the leader of Iran's Islamic Revolution says the U.S. leaders are enemies of Iran, this originates from the historical background. We have no problems with the American people. We even believe that they are quite religious and hospitable, and we know that historically speaking, the American people have always had close ties with the church.
Now, there is one key fact, and the fact is that in the part of the world where Iran is situated, countries around Iran, you see instability, you see violence, extremism, and terrorism prevailing everywhere in this region. And Iran is right in the middle of that region. But Iran is one of the safest, or maybe the safest country in this region. What's the reason for this?
یکی از نقاط قوت و قدرت نظام مقدس
One of Iran's points of strength lies in the power and capabilities of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic. Iranian forces are capable of monitoring all movements along the borders, beyond them, in the region, and beyond the region, and even inside Iran, and in proportion to each movement, they can create the necessary defensive capacity. This permanent vigilance and constant monitoring keeps us from being taken by surprise. Thanks to our vigilance, we know what action the global arrogance may take inside Iran or along the borders, or what is brewing outside our borders, which may later reach our borders. Thanks to this intelligence, and because we take necessary measures to deal with any eventuality, Iran is one of the most stable and safest countries in the region amid the hotbeds of sedition, insecurity, and bombings.
یکی از کشورهای امن و باثبات در منطقه است.
Now, in a recent interview, you said that some countries are trying to, I'm quoting, make Iran insecure. Who do you mean?
ببینید ما مطلع هستیم که برخی از کشورهای مرتجع منطقه از جمله عربستان
We know that some reactionary regimes of the region, including Saudi Arabia, which has sponsored Takfiri terrorism and sort of support the terrorists both financially and spiritually, and its puppets who all enjoy help from the US and Israeli intelligence services, are planning to bring the terrorist groups to our neighbors. In 2014, we saw that Daesh reached in a short span of time from Iraq's Al-Anbar province to Diyala province, which borders Iran's Kermanshah province. We had intelligence that they were planning to make some moves along our borders. But they were forced to retreat after our armed forces intervened in a timely manner and took a decisive action. However, we are aware that those governments are still bent on doing so. We know that some Daesh members are now in Afghanistan and some Taliban militants have pledged allegiance to them. However, they are not close to our borders, but it's possible that they will try to get close to our borders. That goal is what some regional governments are trying to achieve. We are vigilant and we advise these governments who are harboring such a wishful thinking to give it up, because history shows that those governments which sponsor terrorists will see terror backfire and the terrorists will eventually turn against their supporters. We advise them to stop doing that. As you see, terrorism has reached Europe these days. If the Saudis do not change course in the near future, they will see acts of terror in their territory.
در آینده نزدیک دچار همین حرکت‌های تروریستی در کشور خودش خواهد بود.
Okay, you just mentioned Daesh and its activities near Iranian borders. You said somewhere that we had a red line that is 40 kilometers to the Iranian border for Daesh not to step 1 inch closer. Is that red line still there?
ببینید راهبرد نیروی
The strategy of the army in confronting Daesh is that the group must be destroyed before it approaches our border. This is the strategy that we have adopted. We have drawn a 40-kilometer red line, and if we feel that an organized move is taking shape and it has crossed the red line, we will definitely deal with that before it reaches our border. We do not stand on ceremony toward other countries.
و با هیچ کشوری هم تعارف نداریم.
I'm sorry, where is this red line? Which country?
There is no difference. If we feel that such a threat is in the offing in any country, whether it's the east or the west, we are duty-bound to confront it before it reaches the 40-kilometer perimeter and neutralize it.
So the red line is all around the Iranian borders.
All around the borders makes no difference. The 40-kilometer red line runs all along our borders that stretch 8,600 kilometers. If we feel there is an organized move taking place, there we will take action. Now we have intelligence that Daesh has some sympathizers in Iraq's Diyala province, which borders our Kermanshah province. They are being paid by the group, but we are not dealing with them because they are not organized yet. But if we feel they are getting together and planning to initiate a move, then we will definitely act decisively if their host country fails to do so.
Now the question is, has Daesh ever crossed that red line? And if so, have you shown any reaction?
داعش در سال 93 از این خط
In 2014, Daesh crossed the red line and we were getting ready to launch a massive attack against it.
In Iraq's Diyala region?
در سال 93 داعش آمد
In 2014, Daesh had come to the Iraqi cities of Sadia and Jalula near Khanaqin. We were prepared to confront them with a large-scale assault. But the Iraqi forces, including the army and the popular forces, launched a huge operation and dislodged the terrorists from the cities of Sadia and Jalula. This obviated the need for our action. But had they remained in the two cities, we would have definitely launched the attack.
Okay, now this is what Iran will do to Daesh if it crosses this red line. Now, Iran is also helping other countries in the region fight Daesh, like Iran's military presence in Syria and in Iraq. Now, first, please elaborate on Iran's military role in Syria. How is Iran helping Syria fight terrorists?
خدمت شما عرض کنم کشورهای عراق و سوریه همپیمان جمهوری اسلامی ایران هستند و
I should say that Iraq and Syria are allies of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and given the fact that they are engaged in fighting with the Takfiri terrorists, the two countries have requested that we give them assistance. Iran feels obliged to provide them with advisory assistance. We have not deployed combat units in Iraq and particularly in Syria. We do not deploy any of our troops to Syria to fight the terrorists. We only send military advisors to provide assistance to the Syrian army in various ways, and our advisory presence is mainly for training purposes. We are trying to train them in different ways. Some of our advisors may get martyred while providing assistance to the Syrians. Just as the UN forces whose mission is to keep peace may get killed where they go on missions, for example in Darfur in Sudan, despite the fact that they are not on a combat mission. So our assistance to Syria is advisory, and we are trying to train the Syrian troops to fight the terrorists.
عمدتاً کمک‌های مستشاری هست. تلاش می‌کنیم که ارتش سوریه رو در جهت مقابله با گروه‌های تروریستی و تکفیری کمک فکری و آموزشی بهشون بده.
Now, Iran is supporting Iraq and Syria in terms of military advice and that kind of thing. Now, this keeps extremism and violence away from other regional countries, especially some small Arab countries, including also Saudi Arabia. So why shouldn't those countries be grateful to Iran for keeping Daesh at bay? Instead, they are finding Iran a threat.
Those countries which are angry at Iran are sponsors of terrorism. We know that some of the regional states are funding and arming the terrorists and pay huge sums of money to the U.S., so the Americans airdrop weapons and ammunition to Daesh. Some of the regional countries are training the terrorists in their military bases, and we are aware of this. Some impoverished countries also recruit militants and train them on their soil and then send the terrorists to Iraq and Syria, a move which only fuels terrorism. These are the governments which oppose Iran. But the countries which have been battling terrorism for several years and are fully engaged in the fight, and the nations where all families have been affected by terrorism and women and children are unnecessarily being killed, they are on our side and support us. I think all freedom-loving nations of the world and all those who love humanity consider our fight against Takfiri terrorism as a positive move, and they believe that the Islamic Republic is moving in the right direction.
احساس میکنن و اعتقادشون این هستش که جمهوری اسلامی ایران در یک مسیر بسیار درستی داره حرکت میکنه.
Now, are the Iranian armed forces offering assistance of any kind to resistance movements in the region, like the ones that are fighting Israel?
ما یک روایتی رو از پیامبر عظیم الشأن اسلام داریم که میفرماید من سمع.
There's a saying from Prophet Muhammad which goes, if somebody calls for help and a Muslim hears them and does nothing to help, he is not a Muslim. We definitely help Muslims not only in Iran, but wherever they are in the world if we feel they need us. But this is not necessarily in the form of military, weapons and ammunition assistance. We support the resistance movements in the region. However, this does not mean that we give them weapons or send military forces. Our heart goes out to them. We will make efforts to provide them with the spiritual and advisory support so that they will be steadfast in their resistance and won't feel that Muslim nations have withdrawn their support for resistance groups. This is how we offer help to the axis of resistance. Meanwhile, historically speaking, the Israeli regime has been imposed on the region. Before World War I, there was no Israel. Israel is a usurper. It was created after Britain occupied an Arab land and Judaized it. As we see today, they have displaced Muslims from their land and they are bullying the region.
Now, staying in the region, some claim that the Islamic Republic of Iran is militarily intervening in Yemen. Is this true?
ما از تهاجمی که بر علیه کشور یمن آغاز شده واقعا ناراحت هستیم و نگران هستیم. دو کشور مسلمان امروز با هم درگیر هستند.
We are really saddened by the assault on Yemen. We are worried because two Muslim nations are engaged in a war. Saudi Arabia has made an uncalculated move. The issue could have been resolved at the negotiating table. But the incompetence on the part of the young Saudi officials has led to this war. We are sad about the ordeal the Yemeni people are going through, but we are not offering the Yemenis military assistance. As our officials have said, we are making efforts to provide them with humanitarian aid, just as we did before by sea and air, but unfortunately, the arrogant countries and Saudi Arabia have blocked our efforts. This has made us sad. However, it's Iran policy not to offer any military support to the Yemenis.
سیاست نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران قطعاً هیچ گونه کمک تسلیحاتی و نظامی رو ما نخواهیم داشت به کشور یمن.
Now, Saudi fighter jets have been pounding Yemen for a year now, but they haven't gotten anywhere. What's the reason for their failure?
ارتش عربستان یک ارتش تشریفاتی است، یک ارتش ویترینی است، یک ارتش زینتی است.
The Saudi army is a ceremonial one. It's not a real army. It's rather a hired one. I mean, most of the troops serving in the Saudi military are mercenaries. A mercenary military is never ready to put itself in harm's way. It will never make sacrifices in dangerous situations. On the other hand, we see the Yemeni people who, as history has shown, are brave and ready to endanger their lives to defend their cause and land. And certainly, the so-called Operation Decisive Storm, which is showing growing signs of failure today, will not get anywhere. We are witnessing that the Saudis are seeking a face-saving exit from the quagmire they have created. If they fail to do so soon, they will certainly suffer heavier losses.
خارج بکنه و اگر زودتر این کارو نکنه قطعاً ضررهای گسترده تری رو خواهد دید و سنگین تری رو متحمل خواهد شد.
Now, April 17th marks Iran's Army Day. First, let me congratulate you on that occasion. And then we hear that there are some new military hardware is going to be unveiled. Could you elaborate on that?
ما امروز با یک فضای تازه از تهدیدات روبرو هستیم. بعد از
Nowadays, we are facing a new atmosphere of threats. Following the U.S. military expedition to the region after 2001, we have been grappling with something called unparalleled threat. With 180,000 troops and several hundred warplanes and aircraft carriers, the U.S. did not come to the region to merely occupy Afghanistan, which did not have an army. They had not come to take over Iraq, whose ruler Saddam was a lackey of the U.S. and Israel. They were going to attack Iran, and we were ready to confront the U.S. I mean, we had prepared ourselves in terms of military hardware, tactically and technically. We conducted the war games to prepare to face the U.S. The Americans realized that if they were to attack Iran, they would suffer irreparable losses. They waited for 13 or 14 years to see if something happens to help them achieve their goals, but to no avail. So, they were forced to retreat embarrassingly and define a new strategy. The new strategy of the U.S. and Israel is to pit religious sects against each other. Therefore, they created and supported the Takfiri terror groups. What we are witnessing now are proxy wars with the players being the terrorist groups. To tackle the threat, we are preparing ourselves. What the Iranian army's experts unveil are military hardware to be used in ground operations and proxy wars. Of course, we do not see Daesh as our main enemy. We are preparing ourselves to confront a much more dangerous enemy. These military exercises are meant to boost our capabilities to confront that enemy. We hope that such a thing will not happen at all and that no one will dare fancy testing Iran. But if they do, we will give a crushing and decisive response using the same military hardware that we are testing and our committed forces.
Could you mention specifically what some of those new accomplishments are?
بله، یک خودروی آشکارساز NRBC هست که یک آزمایشگاه سیار هست که مواد هست.
Yes, they include an NRBC reconnaissance vehicle, which is a mobile lab for sampling and indicating nuclear, chemical, and biological contamination, a mobile 57mm anti-aircraft gun, all kinds of sniper weapons, some vehicles designed to improve the maneuverability of combat units, a new tank which will be hopefully unveiled. There are also some military hardware. I invite all those who are interested to the unveiling ceremony on April 17th.
And are all of these equipment and military hardware domestically made, produced by our own military experts?
All the military equipment which are going to be unveiled have been made by the Iranian Army's Organization for Research and Self-Sufficiency. The routine is that they produce a sample which is then given to the defense industry that embarks on mass production of the equipment. Then it is given to the military units for use.
Now, as one concluding point, I want to hear your message, your words, to any country, anybody that may be thinking of making any aggression of any kind against the Islamic Republic of Iran. What's your message?
نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران نیروهای جنگ طلبی نیستند.
The armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran are not warmongering. We want peace not only in our country, but in the whole world, and we like to see all nations having friendly relations in addition to economic and social ties. But as the military arm of this state, we are duty-bound to keep ourselves at the highest level of readiness. And our message to those who might think of aggression against us is that in this country there are committed soldiers who have their fingers on the trigger of weapons including missiles, submarines, 7.62 millimeter guns, and others. We are ready to make any power who ventures to invade us regret their move. This we are capable of doing, and the history of Iran's great nation has shown that any enemy who has invaded the country has been forced to leave with their tails between their legs.
هر دشمنی که به این کشور وارد شده ناامید و دست از پا درازتر برگشته.
Now, Brigadier General Purdasan, thank you so very much for your time. I wish you all and your colleagues success and good luck. Thank you.
من هم از جناب عالی و
I would also like to thank you, your dear colleagues, and all those who watch this program.
تشکر و قدردانی.
You're welcome.